guys, this is Jason here from Nathaniel School of Music, and in this lesson I want to introduce you to a very unique form of piano blues playing, which I guess you could call Boogie Woogie. That's probably the official word for it. You could also call it rock and roll piano or whatever you will, but I guess the style used is Boogie Woogie. So what you heard in the demo, you can listen to guys like Fats Domino, you can listen to Little Richard, some of Elvis's songs, and so on to get a feel of it. And a lot of rock artists also use this style. So the pattern I played for you uh, didn't involve a melody line, and that was intentional because I'm sure there are a lot of ways of playing a blues solo. You could use the blues scale, you could use the pentatonic, and a lot of other techniques which you can learn along the way. So this tutorial is not really about soloing or melody playing. It's more about the harmonic progression and the rhythmic pattern and the independence which you need to develop between the hands to make it sound the way it sounds. So the underlying rhythm behind all that I played is a swing rhythm. So if I start with the left hand, I'm basically playing when you hear that, that's basically on every quarter note or every beat of the bar. To add that eighth note pattern, what you could do is play a swing note, and some people will double the note. But what I found to be kind of cool is to play an octave. In any case, your thumb is not really doing anything at the time, so you can swing and create that eighth note movement, a swing movement with your thumb, and keep it static and let it always play the C or the root of the scale. And one thing I've observed in blues and rock and roll is there's always there's always the instance of the root coming back in the music. So even if you take some of the popular licks like a lot of these licks work well with the root of the scale being with every line. So that's what I'm doing in the left hand. You have of course in a swung manner. And I'm ending it in a by sliding from the minor third E flat down to the major third E, and minor third to major third slide, and then landing back on the octave C. Slide, right? And when you slide, just let your finger loose. You don't want it to be too stiff, otherwise it may not sound very very bluesy. And the idea of blues playing is to get these bends, you know. And so on. So again, repeating the the left hand pattern on C. And so on. So with blues music, harmonically, we follow a very standard progression where the one chord is played 4 times, and then we go to the 4 chord, which is played twice, and then we come back to the 1 chord, and then there's a turnaround. So The turnaround section is there are a lot of ways to do a turnaround. The way I'm doing the turnaround is D, which is the 2 minor, then the 5 major, and then back to 1. So I'm just going to show you the entire progression, and you'll also have the chords with you in the video to follow as you go. So at the turnaround, I did like a chromatic climb, as you would call it. That's D, E, F, F sharp, G. And then I go to G, and then the G octave. G, A, B flat, B, C. So I'm just going to do the turnaround, which is the D chord, the 2 minor, and the G chord, which is the 5 major. 5, and then I go back to 1, which is C, and do another similar descending chromatic sequence. I'm just going to play that again with octaves, basically C flat. So let me just break this down probably into 3 parts in the left hand. The first part is essentially the pattern you play over the C and the F chord. F, back to C, D, G, C, G. So let's just break that down into 3 parts right now. So the first one, okay, so you do that once more, and then you do the F once, and come back to C. So that's basically pattern 1, or part 1 of this whole explanation. Part 1 is basically 1 octave, 3 octave, 5 octave, 6 octave, dominant 7th or 7 flat, and an octave, and then coming down 6, 5, slide from flat 3 to normal 3, and then back up. And try to keep that shuffle or that swing rhythm going. Ta 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 ta. It's essentially swing, but played quite fast. So that's about part 1. Part 2 would be from the turnaround section, which is that's D, E, F, F sharp, and then G, A, B flat, B. So part 2 has 2 very similar lines. G, again, and my suggestion is to try each part alone and then put it together. Part 2, sorry, the second half of part 2, and then put it together. Coming to part 3 is basically octaves, chromatically, sort of chromatically down. G, A, B, C, like the Addams Family theme. So flourish at the end. Basically, I'm playing C major, but scattering the notes as best as possible. So instead of doing it's also quite a cool technique because it sounds very different every time you do it. There's no rule behind it, I would say. It's sort of like a flamenco guitarist playing. The way the notes sound with respect to each other are always very unique each time you hear them playing. So that was about the left hand. The right hand is actually just chords, but the chords follow a very specific rhythm. So when I play this pattern here, I'm always imagining like a group of singers doing some harmony in a choir. For example, if I were to just hum it, and so on. So I'm trying to get that rhythm. So it's good to keep a count. Pa, 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 pa. And I'm playing a C major chord. You could also play a dominant seventh, which is a B flat. Pa, 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 F, C, D, and so on. What you need to definitely be able to do is to practice playing the chords shorter and longer at will. So in this vocal example, pa, 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 pa. So there are some notes which are long and some notes which are really short, almost drum-like in nature. So what you need to do is try to bring that together to get this really interesting boogie sound. So some were short and some were long. Long, short, 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 long. My suggestion is to practice it with two hands. At least after you've got the left hand, make sure to get the right hand with the left hand together, because nothing beats feeling the vibe of the music and not trying to do it very mathematically, which is why I urge you to just try and hear what I'm playing, try and latch on to it. These are 16th notes. You could try and notate it or transcribe it and then play, but definitely you need to go with the feel of the song. So this is the overall sound with the right hand. F, the same thing I did on F, F7th. Back to C. So what I did there was a few funky chords. That's a D minor 7th, played in this inversion, C, D, F, A. So the chord I played there is like an altered 7th chord, you could say. Another way to look at it is it's G 7th with a sharp 5. Or the 5th is raised to an augmented 5th. Some may even call it an augmented 7th, I guess. But whatever it is, these are the notes. D. I somehow like that sound in the end. It creates a very mysterious vibe. So back to C. And I end in unison with the left hand. Just for fun. So I'm going to play you from the D minor. G augmented, C, G, and I'm ending the performance with a C major 6, C, E, G, A. Creates a nice ending effect, you could say, a very grand ending. A lot of songs generally have this vibe. So I'm just going to go with it again. Try to play along. There's anyways a slower recorded version which you'll find at the end of the video. You can follow it and try to play from that. That's the C chord, F, C, D minor, G, we'll also do like a run at the end with the major 6th chord. However you want. There's no real rule to that. In fact, there's no real rule to what I'm telling you as well. It's not a very by the book technique. Every artist, I'm sure, has their own touch when they play this sort of music. But one thing we need to respect is the 12-bar pattern, at least till the turnaround section. And the other very, very important thing is to keep that swing going. Your main goal, I think, is to crack the independence between the two hands, and then it's just a matter of playing it faster and faster and so on, right? And for your sound, when you're playing the piano, my suggestion is to use like a honky-tonk patch on. I'm sure most keyboards have a honky-tonk patch. It's a nice sound for playing rock and roll music, because the piano is not tuned exactly, by the book like a grand piano, a standard default sound. So if you're not getting that vibe which you heard with me playing, one more reason is it's probably just the sound. So look out for a very old upright honky-tonk sound, and that should be a lot of fun to play with. The moment you just hit a chord, it just sounds like rock and roll. Again, this is Jason here from Nathaniel. I teach piano here, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel for a lot more tutorials and performances by all of our faculty and students. Cheers.